and then he will be the moderator, and he will introduce our most important guest speaker and our VIP guest. So, Lawrence, your time, please.
Okay, thank you, Professor Solo. Thank you, our Asian Institute Built Environment Director, Professor Albert So. Thank you very much for your generous introduction. So, my name is Lawrence. So, I will introduce, first of all, our first guest speaker is our AIB Honorable ISO 41001-2018, Mr. Ian Venerable, MFM, CFM, and also our special honorable guest from UCL, Dr. Alice Opoku. So therefore, now I will present of you of their background, let you more understand them. So on this PowerPoint, you can see that, let me introduce Ian. Mr. Ian Venerable, MFM CFM, is a very active and internationally oriented FM professional. He is now currently employed by the Dutch Ministry of Defense Joint Support Command as head of FM facilities management. Now he is, amongst others, responsible for strategic portfolio management, concept and policy development, and the implementation of ISO 41001 at 40+ Army, Navy, and Air Force locations. And also, through his company, Ian set up a new company, specially tailor-made for ISO 41001, and his CSI, name is called CSI, Consult, Innovate, and Support and Innovate. This is a brand name of LHFBV. Ian is very active promoting ISO 41001 series of FM standards in general, and also ISO 4112 and the series mostly about facilities management system standard in particular. And co-author Mr. Ian Venerable also currently is the chairman of European FM Standards Committee, CEN. That is the EN 15221 series of FM standards. Within the ISO FM Standards Committee and the ISO TC 267, now Ian is also the chairman of AGI, Roadmap Strategic Portfolio, and head of FM delegation for the Netherlands. And also, Ian is the former chairman of the Dutch FM Association, FMN, and the former director of IFMA's Global Board of Directors. So that is Ian's background, and also our honorable guest, Dr. Alice Opoku, professor of UCL, University College London at UK. Now Alice is currently as an associate professor in project management and quantity surveying. He is an expert in sustainable built environment at the UCL Barrett School of Construction and Project Management, Faculty of the Built Environment, and you can find that Dr. Professor Alex Opoku, his research themes is very wide. He's mainly in art design and architecture, energy, environment, and also sustainable cities as well. So now, may I introduce our Honorable Ian to give us this raising the bar for FM. So now, Ian, this is your show time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You will have to stop sharing your screen so I can take over.
Yeah, okay, let me try it. Just a moment.
Oh, that's going fine. Here we go. You should be seeing the screen right now.
Yes.
That's good. Well, in that case, let me see if everything works. Yes, it works. How wonderful.
Wonderful. I can hear your voice very clear. Yeah.
Good. Well, welcome to the CPD webinar offered to you by the Asian Institute of Built Environment. And the topic for today will be the landmark FM management system standard ISO 41001-2018. Well, my name is Ian van der Poel and I will be your presenter for this webinar. Well, I can't add anything to Lauren's description of what I do, but you can say that I'm the director and the founder of ISO 41001 CSI, which is a small company that offers bespoke consultancy and training using ISO 41001 as a foundation. So what are we going to do today? Well, you will find that the program for today is packed, so please bear with me. So we'll go into what is a standard. I'll tell you a little bit about the evolution of facility management standards. What is a management system and a management system standard? That's a really important one. Tell you a little bit about the clauses and the high level structure that you will find in all ISO standards. How to implement a and what the implementation and certification process entails. On a special request, I'll make a comparison between ISO 19650 and ISO 41001. And the same I will do for ISO 9001, because they're all ISO standards, all working with a high level structure. So there might be some similarities and differences, but what are they exactly? Why should you choose for 40001? Then I'll go into the added value of a facility management system standard. What's happening in the world? Actually, probably I'll go through a number of these case studies very rapidly and focus on the case studies in Asia, because we don't want to lose time that we could use actually in the question and answer. There will be slides in a PDF, so you can actually read them afterwards, but I don't want to linger too long on case studies from other parts of the world. And of course, I'll tell you a little bit more about further training courses. What would be the goals for today? To make sure you get a better understanding of FM standards in general and ISO 41001 in particular. It's also important that you will learn what a FM management system standard is and how it works, and the differences between ISO 41001 on one side and the other ones I just mentioned on the other. And why is that important? Well, it would be nice if you would understand the added value of ISO 41001 for the FM organization. And it's interesting if you understand what the implementation certification process will look like. And of course, the added value of attending one of the further courses. Well, without further ado, the current COVID-19 situation has forced me to work from home, just like I reckon the rest of the world and this border collie who's guarding his sheep from home. So in order to adapt to this new situation, I needed to learn more about webinars and online teaching. So some people might consider me an expert on ISO 41001 in facility management. I'm still a student of online teaching, so bear with me if things go, well, not as supple or as they were supposed to be. One of the things that will help in this process if you would ask questions. Because to be quite honest, it's boring if you don't ask questions. And you can share your questions through the Q&A feature that will be enabled, and it will help the other attendees also better understand the content. You should be able to add or upvote to existing questions, and at the end of the webinar, we will find some time to interact with you and answer those. You can ask the questions by clicking on the Q&A button. You can send them anonymously if you like to, and just send it. And that will reappear in the Q&A screen, and we'll come back to that one. So I hope this will be clear. Let's start with the first part. Standards. Standards, well, I should not be saying that. The standards are boring. They're really, truly boring, but also incredibly important. So let's go into what a standard is and what it's not, and make and explain what the difference is between a technical and a management system standard. So ISO would say that a standard is an internationally agreed document that's agreed upon by experts. And as I say here, you can think of them as a formula that describes the best way of doing something. Well, now I know a number of these types of formula. One of the things is, for instance, the structure you have to follow if you are in a university trying to get your degree. So you will be delivered a structure that you can follow, but it will not mean that you will graduate. You have to do some work. Another example would be if you want to lose some weight, you can buy a book about losing weight, about diets. Just by buying the book, you're not going to get there. So you're actually, a standard is just like these books, like these structures. It will give you a framework that you can use to become more successful, but you really have to do it all by yourself. So let's start with technical standards. A technical standard, as you can see here, it's an established norm or requirement. And so all about repeatable technical tasks. And technical has, it's not only that you have to use a screwdriver or a welding equipment, but let's go on it a little bit further. So it is a document, that's for sure. And it will give requirements, specifications, guidelines, or characteristics that you can use to ensure that in a consistent manner that materials, products, and services are fit for purpose. So it can give specifications for the performance of products of staff, or it can define terms to avoid semantic discussions. ISO 41011, terms and definitions, is a typical example of a technical standard in the ISO 40000 series. Then again, a standard is a lot of things. It's not what people think they are. A standard is not decreed regulation. It is possible that your government will say you have to adhere to the standard, and we're going to monitor that, but that's what the government says. It's not in the standard per se. It's also not a document that will explain you how to do stuff. That can be in an annex, that could be in other documents, but the standard itself will normally give you requirement or suggestions, but not how to do things. Also, the standard is not a control mechanism, and a standard is not, well, let's put it that way, you do not need to get certified in order to implement a standard. So you can use a standard without the need of certifying against the standard. So you have to understand that these are really important stuff about standards. So there was the standards in general and the technical standards in specifically. So now we're talking about ISO 41001, which is a management system standard. And the management system standard is not a technical standard. So what does it do? As you can see here, it's aimed of helping organizations improve their performance. And how do they do that? Again, specifying those repeatable steps that the organization can implement to achieve their goals and objectives. Think about plan, do, check, act here. But also creating the organizational culture that makes sure that everybody will implement and work according to plan, do, check, act in their organization. And this really implies management leadership and commitment. So you could say a management system or a management system standard will help us organize for success. Keep this in mind. Now let's go into the world of standardization, just to understand how this whole structure works. So on a national level, you will have national standards bodies, like HKCAS in Hong Kong. In some region, or actually only in Europe, there is a regional standards body called, in this case, CEN. As mentioned before, I'm the chairman of the CEN TC 348. That's the body that creates the facility management standards in Europe. And the interesting part here, every standard that's developed in Europe will automatically become a national standard in all countries that are part of the CEN system. But in your case, so Hong Kong is part of ISO, and if ISO creates a new standard, then in Hong Kong there has to be a vote if the standard will become a national standard in Hong Kong also. ISO is a huge organization. It's a non-governmental, internationally independent operating organization with its HQ in Geneva in Switzerland. And at this time, there's 164 countries that are members of ISO. The number of published standards when I made this presentation was almost 22,500, and there's still about 1,700 standards under development at this time. So it's a very busy environment where lots of experts are working on creating the best standards for the world. This one I go through very quickly. So if a new standard, now how does a standard evolve from an idea, a concept, to an actual document? It all starts with experts in a country or in several countries or in a TC. So they have this idea that a new standard should be started. For instance, at this moment, we want to create a new standard about how we, from the FM perspective, can avoid or and manage a COVID-19 like situation. So it all starts with an idea, and that will result in a new work item proposal. And that one will go into the technical committee, where the experts will need to create a consensus situation, and where they say, well, yes, let's go forward with that. And when they do that, there will be a committee draft, there will be a draft international standard, and in the end, a formal draft international standard, and then the final standard. For instance, at this time, you will see that the ISO DIS 41014 development of FM strategy has just finished the draft international standard phase and will be brought forward as a formal draft international standard. The difference between the two of them is that in the formal draft stage, there's only, you can't change the technical content anymore. And the expectation is that this standard will be published by the end of the year. And I already mentioned consensus. A standard, creating a standard also implies creating consensus. And a consensus, it means that when the members of a group or a community have reached a general agreement, and all controversial topics will be debated as long as necessary until a formula is found that is acceptable to all participants. Keep in mind that this also means that by aiming for consensus, that you're not per se aiming for the best possible standard. You're aiming for a standard that's acceptable for all members. For those who are a little bit older, if you look at the old industry standards for videotapes, that was long before the compact disc and the DVDs and now streaming. Yeah, we had Betamax, we had Video 2000 and VHS. Believe me, VHS was not the best standard, but it did become the standard. So, let me tell you a little bit more about the history of facility management standards. Back in 2001, and I realized that's almost 20 years ago, here in the Netherlands, facility management professionals got this idea that, well, we have lots of activities going on in facility service, and we're doing cleaning, we're doing maintenance, we're doing reception work, etc., etc. And we believe this could all be part of something called facility management, a term that was already well known. And we created the first FM standard globally, NEN 2748, which would be terms and definition of facility management, including a model for facility management. That generated a lot of attention in Europe. And also already at the conception of this standard, there was a need to create something like this in Europe. Because again, a Dutch standard you cannot use in Germany or in the UK. You need a national standard. So in 2003, the European Standards Committee, CENTC 348, was created. And then you realize what happens if you want to get consensus, because we already had a workable standard available to work from. And it still took us 3 years to reach consensus within the technical committee and publish and create EN 5221. But that time frame is normal within the standardization world. So between 2006 and 2012, we created what some would call the Magnificent Seven, EN 5221-1 until 7. And at the time that they neared their completion, the call for global FM standards became louder. Just the same thing as we progressed from the Netherlands to Europe, ISO, there was an interest of creating international standards so that outside of Europe people could use this too. So in 2011, ISO TC 267 Facility Management was formed under the Secretariat of BSI with Stan Mitchell as a convener. And again, the effect of needing to reach consensus is seen in the timeline because it took 6 years before the first facility management standards in the ISO 41000 series were published, which would be ISO 41011, 12, and TR 41013. They were published all in 2011, and in 2017, and in 2018. The crown jewel of the series was published, ISO 41001, and this standards makes further evolution of facility management as we know it possible. It enables us to develop from a more or less operational and reactive state, where we try to satisfy the ever-changing demands from our clients and customers, to a more strategic and proactive organization focusing on delivering value to the demand organization. 2018, 2 years ago. This year, we see the publication of additional FM standards, including development of FM strategy, the one I just mentioned, ISO 41014, and probably next year, 41015, influencing organizational behaviors for improved facility outcomes, which would be the first FM standard, but that's actually about people. And FM is all about people. After that, we expect ISO TR 41016, technology in facility management. That's just started. There's a very exciting topic to work on. And ISO 41000X, policy and plans. And as I mentioned before, new work item proposals include guidance on emergency management of epidemic prevention in the workplace. Lots of stuff happening. So, management system. ISO 41001 is the first FM management system standard, or MSS. But what does a management system do, and what is it? Let me have a look, see if there's any questions in the meantime, because that's of course also important to follow. So bear with me for a moment. Seems it's all going well. Good, 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 good. What is a management system standard? A management system standard, and let's go through the text here. A management system standard is, or a management system is a set of interrelated or interacting elements of an organization to establish policies and objectives and processes to achieve those objectives. That also includes your organizational structure and the roles and responsibilities that you divide within the organization, and the planning and operation. You have to take into account that you also that there is also the scope of the management system that you want to include. It will depend on what you want to achieve. It could be the whole organization. It could be just one contract. It could be one building. You have to think about it. So the scope is really important. And of course, when we're talking about facility management systems, we're talking about the FM organization. One moment. So, again, you can say that a management system helps us organize for success. So we know now what a management system is, and we realize we all have one. So what can we actually do with a management system standard? So first of all, it's a toolkit, and it's a toolkit that you can use to screen our organization. You can furthermore identify and analyze any gaps between running and changing the business. And of course, you can find solutions to bridge this gap or effectively set up a new management system. So what does it look like? Again, I mentioned that the ISO high-level structure follows the plan, do, check, act methodology. So the first clauses will be about, in the plan phase, about context of the organization, leadership, planning, and support. In all ISO standards, you will find the same structure. So if you're, for instance, working with ISO 9001 or 55001, you will find the same structure. So that makes integration much easier. Let's go back to that later. The do phase, you will find operation. Of course, that's what we do all the time. Performance evaluation would be check, and of course improvement, you will find it under act. Let's zoom a little bit deeper into this. So first of all, on the left side, you will see the clauses in the vertical that constitute the high-level structure. And on the horizontal axis, now you will find the specific processes we know all by heart as facility management professionals. So if you bring them all together, you'll find all the clauses and sub-clauses in the standard that will address the specific clause and the process. So how does it work? Well, first of all, you have to understand that every ISO standard is built from a risk-based approach. And risk, although we often think that if we talk a risk is as a negative thing, that's not true. Every entrepreneur would know that that risk has a positive and a negative side. It has a risk of succeeding and the risk of failure. Just like any professional athlete would know, if you enter into a game, you run the risk of winning and you run the risk of failure. That's okay, that's all part of it. But you have to understand risk. So you start with understanding the context. And you do that by looking at what internal and external issues do you see? What's happening in the world around you? What are the trends? And who are your stakeholders? Who are we affecting? Who is affecting us? And are there any stakeholders we need to consider? If you have done that, then you can go on to risk management and compliance management, because you have to make this strategic assessment. If you go to risk management, you will have to look at what are the risks, what are the threats, the opportunities. And again, it will all depend on your scope, because if you're looking at the bigger organization or just one building or a contract, you will find that the risks, same thing with the stakeholders and the issues, they will differ. And of course, you have to look at what are the requirements, what needs and expectations are there, and what are our compliance obligations. That will differ per area, could be differing per city or per country for sure. If you have done that, it is possible to connect the dots and create a system in which you actually can properly control operations and monitor the progress. So this is all built in the high-level structure plugin model. What does it look like? So we have the core elements and the requirements in the high-level structure. So generic standards, like the one on quality management, ISO 9001, or environmental management, 14001, of the one we're talking about, 41001, can plug in. And you can combine it with sector standards, such as the ones for automotive sector, food safety, or oil and gas sector. That's really important, because if we're talking about ISO 41001 and you're working in the automotive sector, they have to work together. And of course, you've got specific guidelines, for instance, ISO 19011 about auditing. So if you are going to work with a standard, you will need to audit yourself, and you need these guidelines. So they have to connect also. And of course, you have the generic guidelines, the ones I mentioned already about risk management, compliance management, and they all work together in this plugin model. So why is this important? Well, if you are an organization, a company, a school, whatever, you will find that your management system standard will become part of your corporate governance. And if you want to add another standard, because for whatever reason, it becomes much easier. And it will assist you in dealing with future challenges in a rapid changing world, such as COVID-19. And I'll come back to that one later. The interested parties or the stakeholders, they will have a clear interest here too, because now their issues and requirements are taken into account when you're managing your organization. And last but not least, government. And of course, government is interested, because government is all about risk management and compliance management, and they are part of your system. Okay, let's go into what does it mean if you want to implement it. So again, as I mentioned before, if you want to work with a management system standard and you're going to implement it, you are organizing for success. So what does it do? Well, it all starts with intent. I was mentioning, if you want to lose weight, it all starts with intent. If you don't have the intent, nothing is going to happen. So you buy the standard, you write down what you want to do, and you do what you write down. But then again, you're not losing weight yet if you're talking about losing weight. And it's the same thing with implementing a standard. So if you want to do this, the standard and the audit will not see if you have the proper intent. It will measure if you are successful at what you do. So you have to show that the effectiveness of your management system. Again, if you look at the study system, the implementation would be going through the motions, but the intent, the audit would be the moment that you have to prepare and show your work of art, your masterpiece, and after that you get your master's or doctorate title. So you have to prove it, you have to show it, effectiveness. But how can you provide this proof in an organization? Well, I already mentioned the clauses and the sub-clauses brought together with the processes. So you can go from topics such as the progress of risk management or stakeholder management, or you can go the topics of leadership, support, evaluation, and performance. And these will all, you can use them all in your audits for determining effectiveness. So these are all potential audit trails. And if you follow these and come through the audit in a proper way, then you actually demonstrate success. You are proving your effectiveness. So the certification is really important, just like your master title is really important. Then again, if you want to get your MBA, you can actually buy an MBA online. So you really want to provide, you want to have a trustworthy system. You just don't want to have this document from anyone. You want to have this document from someone who can actually, that's respected and that people know that's okay. How do we do that in the standards world? Well, internationally, we have the International Accreditation Forum that will look at the certification bodies from all countries and checks if they are still able to do their work as a certification body. So the accreditation body, we're getting in touch with the certification body, and as you can see here with BSI, they say, we want to show that excellence matters to us. That's why we have been accredited by accreditation bodies such as UCAS and ANAP. And they want to be assessed against the highest levels of quality and service. And when you do that, then you will see that the certification bodies like BSI or whatever, they can provide a conformity declaration for you as a provider of facility management. For instance, what happened here in Macau, not so far away from you guys, where SGS provided MELCO Research and Entertainment with the certificate. So certification of ISO 41001-2018 demonstrates that you are a reliable party and you can comply with legal and other requirements. So the certification itself is the result of successfully completing internal and third-party audits. And guidelines for this process, as I mentioned before, you can find in ISO 19011. That's their Bible. The certification process itself will be performed by a certification body that ideally should be accredited by a nation's accredited board, which again is a member of IAF. And certification for ISO 41001, so what you see here, if you are accredited, you adhere to ISO IEC 17021-1, and especially this one. This standard gives requirements for certification bodies about their competence in auditing a FM system. Because if you don't have something like that, you could have somebody who is normally checking the requirements for swimming pools who would be auditing your company, and that would not make sense. So a part of the ISO TC 267 facility management, they really put some effort together in creating this standard that will be used as a benchmark for certifying bodies. We did this in Switzerland. Again, ISO IEC TS 17021-11 guarantees this trust by forcing certifying bodies to invest in their teams and make sure that true and competent experts in the fields of FM and ISO 41001 are in the team looking at your organization. So if you consider certification, you should make sure to check your accreditation board's website to check if there are any accredited certification bodies available. And again, if you look at the Hong Kong side of the Innovation and Technology Commission, you can look here, there, and you will find that there are no accredited certification bodies available. And is that a bad thing? Yes, it is. On the other hand, there is no accredited certification body available currently in the world. None of them have been accredited yet. And of course, that's a disappointment. But also the certification bodies are commercial parties, so they will be following the demand for these types of requests. So the moment that more organizations will say, well, we want to have a trustworthy certificate, then they will get accredited and it will work all just fine. Okay, I got some special requests of comparing ISO 41001 with, in this case, ISO 19650. Let's compare that one, and let's also go into ISO 9001 because they really look a lot like each other. But before we do that, I think we should have a look about what a facility management is. Well, if you are studying facility management, you probably know that I don't know how many definitions of facility management there are, but there's more than 40, maybe more than 100. But for me, the only relevant one is the one in ISO 41011, because I believe that this is quite possibly the most ambitious and inclusive definition of facility management until now. So, of course, the integration is a distinguishing feature because it's all about adding value and effectiveness, but it's all about the purpose and the quality of life of people. That's new, but also the productivity of the core business. Why is this important? So it's not just, it's something from an organization. It's not just about integrating people, place, and process, and of course within the built environment, but there's two very important distinctions. It should improve the quality of life of people and increase the productivity of the core business. Why am I saying this? Because if you don't do that, you're not adding value. Let me have a quick look here. So compare to ISO 19650. If you look at the life cycle of a building and facility management, then you will find that facility management is part of the operation and maintenance part of the life cycle. If you look at the life cycle costs of a building, you will find that 3/4 of the total costs are in the operations phase. So actually, and we come back to building information modeling later on, life cycle cost, facility management, 75%. So the standard ISO 19650 is about building information modeling, concepts and principles. This is what I mentioned before, is a technical standard. It's not a management system standard. So that's the biggest difference. So you can't compare them there. But again, let's zoom into the FM part. So normally that would be operation and maintenance, including renovation and retrofit. Here you go a little bit more into details. And those who know the standard might have seen this, this drawing. So if you look at the bigger organization, then you'll see that you can use ISO 9001 to improve the management of your organization. And if you focus on the building itself, the built environment, you will find that you're using ISO 55001 for asset management. And if you zoom in into building information modeling, which would be a technical information system, you go into ISO 19650. And what you see in this picture is that there's something missing, because in this standard, they didn't know that ISO 41001 existed. So it should actually be like this, because ISO 41001 is the part that helps optimize the operations phase of a building, which again, the operations phase is 75% of the total life cycle costs. So we really have to work together, and this is one of the reasons why we work on FM BIM, because the information that is generated during the conception of the building and the construction of the building is crucial for optimizing operation of the building. I hope this suffices. If we go to 9001, then some experts would argue that they're all the same. Like here, similar clauses, what does it mean for us? And some experts would say, do not create subsystems, separate subsystems, just wait until your customers ask for it. But is that an expert answer? And is it indeed, well, they look like twins, but are they identical twins? Let's have a better look. So if you look at these Venn diagrams and you focus what's left on the green oval, outside of the red one, you will find that ISO 9001 is about the whole organization, while ISO 41001 is about the FM organization. organization. What does that mean? Well, FM is a separate entity, while in ISO 9001, you're just part of the whole organization. You're just a department. And if you're part of the department, that means that the whole organization will create a vision, a strategy, and plans for you. While if you're a separate entity, you will need to create your own vision, strategy, policy, and plans. Wow, that's different. And why do you create this? Well, we were talking about the definition of facility management. Well, we have to create a vision, strategy, policy, and plans that actually is aimed at the success of the demand organization. While in 9001, it's just about the quality of processes. And when I say just, believe me, it's a lot of work, but still. So in ISO 41001, the focus is outward. We have to demonstrate an effective and efficient delivery of facility management that supports the objective of the demand organization. We have to prove it. While the inward focus of 9001 is, well, you have to consistently provide products and services that meet customer requirements. But if the customer doesn't know what he's going to do next year or the year after, that's a tough one. It's very reactive. So you have to respond to what the customer is doing. While in 41001, we have to have a dialogue with the customer and trying to figure out what are you going to do in the future, because I will need to create effective and efficient delivery of FM that will support you then too. So I can't wait until you finally know what you want to do. So what does it look like? On the left, you will see the figure that you see in 9001. On the right, the one that you see in ISO 41001. So it was in the red square. That's all similar. It's all about plan, do, check, act. Where are the differences? First of all, you're a separate entity, and the second one, being a separate entity, your top management will need to have a dialogue with the top management of your demand organization, your client organization, and discuss what you want to achieve. And that's not so easy, because it really means that you need to work together. You need to work together to clearly define the needs to meet the core business strategy, and to develop FM policies and practices that will enable the core business activities of the demand organization. So there is a strategic dialogue, alignment. I'm not going to go too deep in the proof of what I just said, but if you check the scope of ISO 9001, you see just what I mentioned, and the same thing counts for ISO 41001. And again, go to A, we need to demonstrate effective and efficient delivery of FM that supports the objective of the demand organization. And my question would be, at this moment in time, can you provide top management of the demand organization with proof that what you do actually helps them become more successful? If the answer is no, you might want to consider implementing ISO 41001. So again, why do we need an FM management system standard? Well, it helps us improve our performance by creating repeatable steps, PDCA, learning organization, and especially also create this culture in which the people understand what their role is within this learning organization. And it has specific roles for leadership in FM and commitment. So ISO 41001 is not a huge change. It's not a revolution. It's an evolution. It allows us to set the next step on our development to a really proactive and strategic thinking organization. So if you want to join this evolution, you need to put on your thinking. Well, let's go a little bit further about what's happening in the world. And again, we were talking about risk, and well, there might be a link between preparedness of FM organizations for what happened with COVID-19 and ISO 41001. And well, Stan Mitchell, the chairman of the TC, so eloquently states here, one would expect that the odds are that those who implemented ISO 41001 were better prepared than most. But is this indeed the case? Let me take you on a journey. And this is also a moment to help you, to remind you that you should ask questions. Let me help you a bit. Do you think there's currently enough information available about the standard? And if there's not, who should make this information and knowledge available? Should that be the university? Should that be the professional associations? Should it be businesses like mine? I don't know. And do you think it will become successful in your region? And last but not least, well, do you want to learn more about the standard and what it does? So, a quick go around the world. So my research was severely hampered by privacy laws. And both ISO, national standards bodies, and certification bodies have been unwilling to share information on certified organizations. And as such, I'm quite sure there will be many more certified organizations worldwide, but I just couldn't find them online. But let's start in the Middle East. And so in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, there's at least 3 organizations that got certified. And Seif is one of them. And one of the things they noticed that they were able to plan better and predict better, which also meant that they could reduce operational costs because they could reschedule intervals for predictive preventative maintenance. They also found out that this is an extremely helpful standard to improve your business. But if you do not understand facility management, it's not going to work. You just can't ask a quality consultant to implement the standard for yourself. You really need to have hands-on knowledge, thorough knowledge of what facility management is. And yes, they implemented a risk register, which was very effective, and it really helped them. But it seems the standard is not a crystal ball, and it will not tell you the future. However, it might help you better prepare for and cope with whatever the future might have in store for you. The other company, Takamul Al-Ula, said, well, what they noticed that their operation became more consistent, reliable, and sustainable. And moreover, what I already mentioned there, it was easier to demonstrate productivity, efficiency, and effectiveness to their clients. So in the end, it is really adding value. Dubai, well, that's a very competitive and rapidly developing market, and it's really popular. There's a number of companies already certified there. Let me see if I can get the sound working on this slide. If it's not, please let me know.
41001, which is the world's first dedicated standard for the facility management industry. The ISO standard will further help us to increase the operational efficiency, the sustainability efforts, and last but not least, the well-being for our biggest assets, our employees. Regardless how high the standard is set, we never compromise on quality. For our customer, it means that they are looked after by a facility management company that is recognized for its commitment to the highest possible international FM standard. Our industry is in a very competitive environment right now. The new ISO standards will put a stronger focus on raising minimum standards and providing value rather than simply achieving the lowest price. I'd like to use this opportunity to say a very big thank you to the whole Farneck team, especially to the managers and employees who have been dedicated to make it possible to achieve the ISO 41001 certification.
Farneck is a very trustworthy and large organization in the UAE. So I think it's really important that Marcus Oberlin shared his knowledge here. But now we're 2 years later and Farneck has reaped the first benefits. So contracts not only significantly increased in volume, but also in duration. And that was a direct result of better alignment with their demand organization, the thing I was talking about. And again, what you see here is a direct result of better operational planning and effective planning in reduction of operational costs. And moreover, we see that the organization was better prepared to the effects of COVID-19 than what then was expected at first hand. The next case file is Al-Shirawi. Actually, I will go through this very rapidly. Something similar happened here, but I want to go to your area. India is an interesting one. You could actually state that India was the cradle of civilization, as Capgemini was the first company in the world to get certified for ISO 41001. So let's go to Singapore. In Singapore, Yale NUS College got certified. And normally I would never read up aloud what is being said by on the slide. But Dennis All, he was really, what he said, I can actually add nothing to it. So what he says here, the facility management team was pushed to take things to the next level. And it required them to demonstrate how they arrived at positive outcomes rather than just showing that they have proper SOPs. And this one I like. So everything what they traditionally practiced, they re-strategized it. So they went from lagging indicators to leading indicators. What does that mean? They started to implement action plans to anticipate needs and setting targets to reduce the number of defective occurrences in the future, instead of reacting to the ones that just occurred. The same thing that we heard from Varnek and that we saw at Al-Shirawi. So what they found is that most SOPs, they are looking for signs of facility deterioration. But what they actually were starting to look for, what would be the source of a facility deterioration? Because if you know that, you don't have to wait for the signs. And actually what happened is that their patrol routes, they could cover 50% more patrol routes. And during each route, they would record double the amount of observations in comparison to the past. So what happened is that by what they learned, they changed their objective. So they started with the intent to create an easy and a default reporting system with a fast response time to a system where no defects need to be reported by the end users at all. So this shows what ISO 41000 is all about. It's demonstrating how facility management can actually add value to the core business. So this was for them also the initial step for what they think creating a winning formula, but also set a foundation for future generation to continue to seek boundaries, the prototype of a learning organization. Well, yeah, and they want to be a new industry benchmark, and it makes sense. So what did they learn in the COVID situation? Well, the same thing. So they did their planning, their risk planning, they made their registers, they identified people who would have a role there, and they started with a cross-departmental communication process already. So when COVID-19 actually happened, they were better prepared than most. And yes, there was a crisis for them, there still is, but they can still maintain a customer-oriented culture of excellence with a service standard that is acceptable to the community. And I reckon lots of other companies will have difficulties here. Another one in Singapore would be CBM. And CBM is an organization that started in the early 70s of the last century. It's one of the leading providers of integrated facility management in Singapore. And when ISO 41001 was introduced, they thought and they believed that this standard would actually validate who they were and what they stood for. So they used the standard to prove the trustworthiness of their name, of their brand. And actually what they did is they got one contract certified against ISO 41001, and it involved multiple different buildings at different locations in Singapore. And the buildings were not identical. They were differing in age, differing in services, and it really obliged them to document the assets portfolio of each building before they could operationalize their plans. You would say we normally do that, but ISO really requests you to go a little bit further. And the fruits of the detailed planning allowed them to carry on their work more efficiently and more effectively. And that, again, helped them meet the demand organization's needs and expectations, which again proves the strategic alignment and the focusing on the success of your demand organization. They showed that being certified helped them better understand their processes, the needs of the buildings, the need of their demand organization, and generate value. Let's move closer to home for you guys, Macau. And if I'm correct, and I hope I am, Macau is the only legal and licensed city to run a gaming business in China. And the Macau Special Administrative Region government refused the performance of gaming operators at least 1 year before the end of the license in 2022. This review will include the proportions of gaming facilities, non-gaming facilities, hotels, food and beverage, and social responsibility, and forcing all gaming operators in this competitive market to maintain a high level of services and facilities if they are to retain their license. So the stakes are really high. And MELCO decided to choose ISO 41001 to prove this very high level. And Aldous, our very experienced consultant in this matter, he said, well, I've been implementing ISO standards for the last 25 years, but this one was definitely different. Just like we heard from Seif in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So it's not just about how to achieve the requirements in the standard. No, the organization was quite clear, and they were committed to continue providing an extraordinary experience to their guests and their players. So they said, looking from the core business, ISO 41001 is very close to their daily life. And that meant that they also found that the standard reflects the daily life of them all, at the booking center, the front office, and all the other elements that constitute the standard. And it brought together all the different columns and departments, and it supported the other business on achieving the now joint goal to provide a wow experience to the guests. And not only to the guests, because this is important to make sure that the guests will come back to the hotels and the resorts again and generate business. Japan was an interesting case study also, because during the conception of the standard, our Japanese team members had some difficulties with some of the wordings. And for instance, the word client organization was an issue, and that's why we call it demand organization. But currently it is a success, and Eon Delight and Kintetsu building services are both certified. And of course, Japan would not be Japan if they would not use the power of manga to promote ISO 41001. Then South America, in Brazil, CEMHS was the first to get certified. There's 3 more organizations that, as far as I know, have been certified but did not receive the certificate yet due to COVID-19. And then we go to Europe. Europe is actually has only 1 certified organization, and that's an organization in Croatia, which is weird. The good thing is in the Netherlands, where I'm living, there's 2 large processes going on. The Custodial Institutions Agency, which will have a very interesting abbreviation in English. The department the Department of Corrections, that's all the prisons, they really want to be the first organization within the government to be ISO 41001 certified. And the Ministry of Defense, where I'm also working for, will implement ISO 41001 at 40+ defense locations. So what's happening in the world? If you look at what's happening in the USA, in the UK, and Western Europe, those were the countries that really said we should have this standard. They were really adamant in creating the standard. But those are also the region where, well, as it seems, nothing really is happening. And you'll see that in the countries where a more developing FM market is prevalent, that people are getting, the professionals are really seizing their opportunity. Maybe in the questions and answer, you can share some of your insights. And after the Q&A, I would like to show you a little bit more about the standard where you can enroll in a 1-day training course. I come back to that one later. Lawrence, I think this would be a good moment to look at the questions and answers you might have. Are you still there? Lawrence?
Okay, thank you, Ian. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well.
Yeah, okay. Can you let me to be the host, because I want to share my screen to others.
Yes,
yeah?
I can stop share if you like. You can share now.
Yeah. Okay. Let me get it again. No, just a moment. Okay. Let me try the share screen again. Okay.
Hi, Ian.
Hello.
There's a question in the chat box.
Yes, let me see if I can find the. I see the chat box. Which one? The last one?
The last one, yes.
Ah, that's an easy one. Ah, I love that one from Toby Jung. To be quite honest, and I'm now checking if I had it here somewhere. Let me see if I can find it here, because there you know I'm not lying. We've decided, the group of experts within ISO, that it actually doesn't matter. It's facility management or facilities management. If you can find it in ISO 41011. It's the same. There is no difference whatsoever. So sorry for all the professors who have been discussing if it should be facilities or facility management. It's the same now. So, and the second one would be, so we have 9001 and FM is only part of our business. Do we still need 41001? The question I would have, FM is only part of our business. So are we talking about a larger organization with an in-house FM department? Maybe it. I'm happy if we talk here, but anyone, Lars, you know if that's the case? Well, anyways, doesn't matter. So if we're talking about a larger organization or a organization within the FM department, wait a moment. Okay, so again, as I mentioned, ISO 9001 is about the whole organization. So it will focus on the quality of your internal processes. So you can actually, and it's the same thing like we have the Ministry of Defense, they are 9001 certified, and our FM organization will be 41001 certified. I showed you the plug-in model that HLS offers, and you will find that they work very well together. And actually, if you proceed with ISO 41001 for the FM department, you will find that you will be able to have first of all, a better connection with the C-suite of your organization, and you will be able to prove that you actually can add value. I hope that's a proper answer. One of my suppliers who supplies facility management, he had the same question and actually said during the foundation training course, I now really understand it. ISO 41001 is aimed at the success of the people I work for, while 9001 is only aimed at our processes. So we should really do that. So I hope you really understand that difference. And I see a question now about the numbers, how to label a number, so many ISO systems. There is no clear logic there. What happens if a new TC is formed and they want to create a suite of standards, then they get a number. In our case, it was 41000. And the only distinguishing part is that you will find that, for instance, in our case, 41001 till 41010, they will be reserved for management system standards or what's included there. So if you will find, for instance, 55001, you know that will be a management system standards related to asset management. If you find 14001, that will be a management system standard related to the environment. And it's the same thing here. So the first standard we created was 41011, which was terms and definitions. 12 was about the contracts, etc., etc. So I hope that makes sense. But if you try to get logic in the larger system, sorry, can't help you there. That's just something that ISO has thought of. Okay, the other question answered. The difference between ISO 41001 and ISO 41012. And that's actually, again, a simple one. 41012.
Just a moment, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Just a moment, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Yeah, because I think Alex should want to share with us something. May
Yes.
I?
Sure,
may I
sure,
Alex?
sure.
Yeah, Alex, can you share with
Sorry.
me, with us. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Alex, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, very nice. May I invite you to share with us, with Ian, about what to want to share with us on this ISO new FM system? May
To
I?
be honest with you, I think we've had an excellent presentation from the experts, and you know, we are privileged to have had somebody with that kind of background, both, you know, and had got an insight experience into the organization, and have worked with various you know, clients across globally to share his expertise with us. And I don't think it will be even worth to say much. But what we say is, as you know, the built environment and the global, you know, standards moves on, things keep changing with time. So, you know, like his answers to the various standards that are superseded by current standard, as we, you know, we built in new systems, as the industry changes, as we introduce BIM, as we introduce these mechanisms, then some of the existing standards need to be revamped. And in the process of revamping some of these existing standards, come about with new standards like the ISO 41001. Yeah, so to be honest, I don't think I'm gonna add much on the issue that he's submitted today, because it's super. I mean, it's the new thing for the industry. People were talking about the ISO 9000, which is more of the wider organization, but we can't, you know, talk about the wider implication of the FM sector, whether, you know, as he said, whether it's a small in-house FM department or session, or you have, you know, sourcing an external FMB, you know, there's the need to have specific, and it does improve once we move into more of specialization, if I should call it. So instead of relying on the standard, which is looking at a wider organization, this one just concentrate on the FM parts of the organization. And it does help to concentrate and put the necessary systems and mechanisms in place as an organization, whether it's a client base, to make sure that you are FM, and, you know, with the sustainable issues coming on board, with the climate change agenda, with sustainable development goals, SDGs, facility management is becoming equally important. And therefore, having such a standard that address facility management solely is the way forward. And we are privileged to have you as our guest speaker today. I think, you know, I think other colleagues may share the same view that presentation from start to bottom is super. The style, the case study that you've provided across, you know, from Japan to Macau, it just sells everything all. So we are privileged and happy to be, you know, joining hands with you and being part of the team as we move along and help to solve some of the global challenges. Thank you. Thank you. I do appreciate it. Thank you.
The only thing I can add here, and now I'm going to say something that some people might find disturbing. I do not believe this is an FM standard. I believe this is a standard that would be useful for any organization that's in a supporting role that wants to prove and demonstrate added value to their core business. But fortunately, it's about facility management, and we actually are about the integration of all these different support activities, so it does make sense.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want me to go back to the other questions, Lawrence? You have muted yourself.
Yeah, you have to unmute. Okay.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So I think can you see my PowerPoint about the
No,
question?
I see you now. So you have to share your screen again.
Yeah. So therefore.
But I will in the meantime, while you're sharing your screen, let me go into the difference between 41001 and 41012. The question you posed. Is it okay? So yeah. ISO 41012, just like I was just mentioning about ISO 19650, that's a technical standard. So a very important one, but that's about how to create the optimum contract, how to do the procurement system, how to go from a more traditional transactional contract into a contract where you become more of a partner and you get into a more strategic partnership. So while ISO 41001 is looking at the larger picture of what facility management does, the integrative part is 41012, a technical standard that focuses specifically on contract management and procurement. Is that logical? Then the second one, well, there was the difference between ISO 41001 and ISO 19650. I hope that one is clear. Actually, what's happening now, we found out we do not have a liaison yet from the technical committee to the technical committee that creates the other standard. And there's a huge need for FM BIM. So facility management, building information modeling, or building information management. Because the moment we would have a 3D and 2D model of all the systems we have in our built environment, and we can combine that with the information of what's happening in the operational phase, that would be wonderful. So the hard part, of course, is the sharing the knowledge. So there are new standards being developed within the BIM environment, just like we have in PDF files. But again, there's lots of work to be done to make sure that the FMs will reap all the benefits of a proper working BIM system. And it is necessary because, again, 75% of all costs during the life cycle are in the operations phase. So there's huge benefits there. Then the question was, what are the advantages and disadvantages of the new ISO 41001 to the Hong Kong public and private clients and service providers? Well, I hope that was clear at my presentation. So again, if you look at the demand organization or the organization where you have in-house FM, you will find that you will elevate FM to a much higher level. So both the demand organization and the FM organization, they will be able to work better together. And one of the examples from the UAE showed that actually by talking to each other and asking different types of questions, that the demand organization and the client organization actually found out that the FM organization was able to do much more than they already did. And so they got more contracts. And they also found out in those dialogues that it would make sense to invest in the people, give them proper education, give them better stuff. And that you could not do that by giving people a contract for 1 year. So actually they got a longer term to do that. So they got contracts for 3 years, which allowed the suppliers to invest better in their personnel. So it is really, it's an evolutionary circle going up where you actually invest in quality from both sides and everybody getting better from that. I think the Hong Kong public and the Hong Kong government will also see the possibilities there. Then generally both Hong Kong clients and FM service providers use ISO 9000 quality management. Again, so there's no difference. We said there's no difference between facility and facilities management. And that, to be quite honest, there's no difference between in-house and outsourced facility management provider. They're all providers. So that's an important one. And I hope I already showed the advantages of ISO 41001 for an FM organization over 9001. Actually, you could do both, which makes sense because some of the organizations I mentioned, they implemented both of them. It will actually help if you do both of them. So I hope those advantages are clear. The benefits of the new standard to the local FM professionals, you have a common language, you've got a common vision of where you want to go to. The vision that was shown by the people in Singapore, where they said, well, we do not want to be reactive and respond to things going wrong in the building, but we want to create into a system that we know how the system works, and we can actually predict what could go wrong in the building and make sure that that it is fixed before it actually happens. That is something where you prove, where you demonstrate added value. And I think that's important. And if you don't do it, that's the last one. What happens to them short and long term? Well, I don't know. It all depends, because ISO 41001 is about adding value to the demand organization. So if you're working for a company that really wants to provide stuff at the lowest possible costs, where quality doesn't really matter, or the environment, and those businesses exist. Well, actually, then adding value would mean that you buy cheap stuff, don't spend too much time on the environment, etc., etc. So you will still be successful as an event provider, but only for that type of organization. The main question would be, of course, you as a professional FM person, would you want to work for an organization such as that? But again, to the clients, I would say every client deserves what he gets. The same thing with the people who are doing procurement. If you get if you don't want to pay too much and you say, well, I want 20% discount, well, you should not be, how should I say it? You should not be surprised if the quality of the products you get is substandard. So if you want to be the benchmark, go for 41001. It will stimulate you to grow together. And I think this would also be a very good format for creating new curricula in universities. What can I say more? Any more questions to answer, or shall I go back to the course material? I see you nodding, Lawrence.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Okay. I've got another meeting, so I'll be leaving very soon. So I just want to make last comment before I leave. And the last comment is based on a comment you just made about the relationship between capital cost and operational cost. I'm just trying to draw the attention that FM is becoming more important as clients look at long-term investment on projects. In the past, clients will more concentrate on capital costs for making decisions. But now government, whether it's hospital buildings, whether it's a school, they are looking at whole life cost. And in terms of looking at whole life costs, we need data from the FM department in terms of maintenance costs, cleaning costs, all these energy costs in use, energy in use, or OPEX, which is the operational expenditure, is very, very important, because before a client commits to any project, they are just not looking at how much it's costing them today to build, but they want to know how much would they cost them over 35 years of owning that built asset, owning that school, owning that real estate, owning that hospital. And therefore, the FM part is becoming more important, because any future project will rely on data from the FM team to be able to understand the operational costs in terms of energy, cleaning, maintenance, to be able to put in. So FM is becoming more and more important. And therefore, as academics, industry people, any research in that area is really, really important. Like I said, I've got another meeting to go. I've enjoyed the session so much. Local colleagues who want to get in touch for any collaboration or partnership, I welcome that. Sure to get in touch with Ian, because I love the presentation, and I hope we'll continue to collaborate and partner in the future. So enjoy the rest of the session, and we will catch up again, but because I need to go to another meeting straight away.
Thank you, and take care. Stay safe.
All right, you too. Take care, everybody.
Lawrence, can you stop sharing your screen?
Welcome.
No, it's still your screen.
I hope you enjoy Alex. Oh, yeah.
Lawrence, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, to Hong Kong FM professionals. Yeah.
The connection is not so good at this moment, but say again. Lawrence, I'm still seeing your screen. Do you want me to continue the presentation? Let me see. Can I? Ah, there we go. Very good. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Okay. So
I think the connection has some problem. Yeah.
Okay. No problem. I want to add to the last remark just made. I'm also managing the largest public-private procurement contract in the Netherlands, and we were going to start a new barracks, a really large one. And what's happening now is that, well, what we've learned from the earlier contracts, where we go from design, build, finance, maintain, and operate, that facility management was now actually enclosed in the design phase already, because we found out if you do that, you would have a huge reduction in operational costs. And we were talking about many tens of millions on a yearly base. So FM knowledge is now being encompassed in the beginning of the process. But it can only work if the facility manager understands how that part works and how he or she can actually add value there and have the right dialogue. So if you want to know more about the standard, there's different ways. Of course, you can buy the standard and read it. Again, it's boring. But there's also the foundation training course, and then we'll go into why should one start with the standard in the first place. I already gave you some ideas, but there's much more there. And what would be the added value for the participant, the FM professional, the organization, core business demand organization? And in the end, how can you sell it successfully within your own organization and start the implementation process? And I was really honored that Aldous Au, I mentioned him before, he was the consultant that helped MELCO research in Macau get certified, and he did the course with me actually after the certification process. And he was really enthusiastic about the standard, and he wished he had done it before he started the process, because it would actually have helped him. So it will give you a better understanding of how to align with the demand organization, some more tools for adaptive and agile approach to facility management, how to sell it, well, and loads of inspiration, of course. And well, there's many organizations that have already done the training, both from government as a commercial, both national as international, physical and virtual. Actually, I'll have a course again tomorrow, and quite probably also on Sunday and Monday evening due to Ramadan for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. People are enthusiastic about it. Why are they enthusiastic? Because most basic or foundation training course or implementation training courses, they are aimed at people at the quality department. And as we saw already, you really have to understand facility management. If you do not understand it, you're just focusing on what does the standard say, and let's look at the requirements, but you will be missing the point. And the point is, you're a separate entity, and you need to understand facility management in order to engage and align with the demand organization and strategically align. This course is aimed at the facility management professional. The implementation training course should be available later this year, but there's a lot of work to be done. And if you want to have more information, you can always contact me. Contact me on LinkedIn or through Lawrence. He knows where to find me. And I must say, I really enjoyed doing this webinar for you guys. Any last remarks, Lawrence? No sound yet.
Yeah. So is there any question from the other participant in this virtual classroom? If you have, you can ask still at this moment.
We're still here.
Yeah, directly with our honorable speaker, Mr. Ian Venerable. So is there any other question? So if no, so that may I close this online session. If no other question from other participants, you're welcome to ask, or you may be just type or use your mic to speak.
Yeah, then we need to give him the possibility to speak.
Yeah. Agree.
I'm quite sure that can be arranged.
Yes. Understand. So if no other question from the other participants, so may I again thank you very much, Ian. I'm very happy to meet you online, but next time maybe I want to meet you physically again, not only
Yes.
on our virtual. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
you
So,
never know. You
yeah.
never know.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
again, it was a pleasure. If anybody will have questions tomorrow, don't hesitate to contact me. You've got my contact details. Link with me on LinkedIn and become part of this larger community.
Yeah. Agree. So therefore, no problem. So therefore, if in the future or the participants have some question or not on today, but also maybe on tomorrow, they can still ask through our AIPE. Yeah, this is also very important. That because our AIPE is closely connected with CSI. Yeah.
And
So
if I may,
yeah. So therefore, if no other question from the participant, so Ian, I want to close the online session here.
I've got one last question, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
So if you guys, if you liked this webinar, go to LinkedIn and just mention it on one of the pages where we mentioned this webinar, because it will help. And I would appreciate it, actually. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. See you.
Okay. So see you next time.
Thank you, Ian.
Bye bye.
Yeah, sure.
Bye.
Yeah.